witness in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Major General Petronella van Rooyen, has made a firm declaration that the police minister had no authority to disband the political killings task team. She told the commission on Thursday that the decision to disband the unit fell outside the minister's constitutional mandate.
As I've indicated earlier, the minister chairs the Madlanga Committee that consists of the minister and the members of the executive councils responsible for policing. This committee facilitates cooperation and coordination between the national and provincial spheres of government.
All right, can I just ask you, as you are about to deal with paragraph 26, you start that paragraph in your first sentence by stating that the need for clarity on the role of the minister has repeatedly been raised as a concern. So as you deal with that paragraph, if I can just ask you to perhaps give examples where this issue has arisen, because you say it arose repeatedly. So if you can please proceed to deal with paragraph 26, bearing that request in mind.
Okay. The need to clarify the role of the minister has repeatedly been raised as a concern. It appears that there are different interpretations to words given or words contained in section 207 of the Constitution that requires the National Commissioner to exercise control over and manage the police service in accordance with the national policing policy and the directions of the cabinet member responsible for policing. According to the Oxford Dictionary, policy refers to a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by government to achieve a particular goal, often outlined in written form or as a clear guideline for conduct. Chair, this relates specifically to the question whether the letter of the minister on the 31st of December 2024 was a direction given in terms of section 207 and whether that fell within the purview of the minister to give that direction. So policy is clearly something that is proposed to further government goals, and it's often outlined in written form. And I believe in view of our discussion on the national policing policy, we all have a better idea of what it entails and also the strategic level of matters that are addressed in that policy as an indication of government's goals and aims.
But if I can just ask you to stop there perhaps. You recall the National Commissioner said he reached out to the President. The President said he'll talk to the Minister. And then in one of those meetings where this issue was discussed, the National Commissioner says the President is in agreement with the disbandment of the PKTT, and therefore, by extension, the President was in agreement with that instruction that was issued. Does that make any difference in relation to your definition as you've referred to as policy?
Government's policy does not only relate to the decision or view of a president and a minister, and this is even more pertinent in view of our current government of national unity. So it cannot be proposed that even if it was discussed with the president, it has now become government's policy or government's intention to dissolve the PKTT.
All right. I understand your answer. Please proceed. This appears
to be aligned to the requirement that the national policing policy requires consultation with provinces to ensure a course of action to achieve a particular goal, in this case to address policing needs and priorities. This is furthermore consistent with the policies already drafted and issued by the Minister of Police, which were written documents and aligned to government priorities, with the aim to provide medium to long-term strategic course of action. In contrast, a direction is identified in the Oxford Dictionary as a position towards which a person moves or points, and refers to guidance or supervision. A direction does not require to be in writing and may also include verbal instructions. It appears to be focused more on immediate or short-term action.
Just on that, General, was the disbandment instruction a direction as envisaged in Section 2072 of the Constitution? If not, why? I am aware that from paragraph 93 onwards, you do deal with the question whether the disbandment instruction was a policy or an operational matter. You do not deal, however, with the question of a direction. That is from 93 onwards. Hence my question.
Okay.
So was the instruction a direction or not? And why not?
Chair, clearly it was an instruction by the Minister. It also contained the word, I believe repeatedly, direct. The question is, was it a lawful instruction or direction, in the sense, did the Minister have the power to direct or command the closure of a task team that was investigating crimes? And in my view, he did not have that authority, because it relates to the operations, investigating cases and the operations of the police. In other words, the execution of the police's mandate in terms of Section 205(3). If we say the National Commissioner is responsible to manage and control the police service, that must be linked to manage and control the police service in the execution of its constitutional mandate. And the decision of a minister to close a political task team that was responsible for the investigation of crime, in my view, fell outside the mandate or authority of the minister.
So in short, what may be purporting to be a Section 2072 direction cannot be such a direction if it has strayed onto operational matters.
I agree with that submission or with that explanation, Chair.
Well, if I can just come in, it's not even a question of agreeing. I think the chair is simply paraphrasing your statement and the proposition that you put.
Okay. I
So
confirm.
Yes. I think lest the chair be misunderstood to say he put a particular suggestion. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Mr. Mdau.
Yes.
General, two questions from me. One about directions. What would constitute a direction that does not offend, a direction from the minister that does not offend the constitutional structure?
Commissioner, in my view, especially if you consider public engagement, such as in Bezos, will be a place where the minister engaged with the community. And if a minister, for example, during such an engagement with the community finds out that there's unhappiness, for example, in the Western Cape with gangsterism, and the minister tells the National Commissioner, you have to do something about gangsterism, that would be a direction. In my view, it will be a positive direction coming from the evaluation of complaints or engagements that the minister had, and this can be with the community or it can be with the politicians in the province. And that direction is based on what he was told by members of the community or members of the executive in the province, identifying a specific area of concern or where there's a problem, and simply telling the National Commissioner, you must do something about this, or attend to this, look into this. As I said, gangsterism, I believe, will be an example that all of us can identify with.
Okay, so not the how?
Not the how, no. Okay. And I would also be careful to say that the minister can close things. In other words, that can have an impact on policing. So if he makes a positive suggestion or a positive guidance to say, look, or what can you do about this? But to close something may have a ripple effect that is not something that is anticipated by a politician when that decision is taken, simply because he's not, he cannot be expected to be aware of all the intricacies of policing and how one decision can impact on a number of other aspects of policing.
And the second part, in your paragraph 26, that opening sentence where you say the need for clarity on the role of minister has repeatedly, with emphasis on repeatedly, been raised as a concern. This, I don't know if this is the intention that you sought to convey, but it suggests this is not a once-off, the case that we're dealing with now, or the facts that we're dealing with now. It's not a once-off thing. There's been concerns. If you like, systemic concerns about the role of the minister. Is that what you're seeking to convey there? And if you do, if that's what you're seeking to convey, what are the specifics?
Commissioner, to be honest with you, I think it was more within the context of the last couple of months that we've been consistently working and attending to the issue of the closing of the task team and the implications thereof. So there wasn't any strange intention to include the word. I think it's just something that is constantly part of our daily operations. And I believe the implications of that letter and the fact that we are sitting here today indicates the need or amplifies the need for clarity, not only for the benefit of the organization, but also for the benefit of the executive, to ensure that there's a clear line to stay away from in respect of both the National Commissioner and the Minister, but also for the organization as a whole.
Your answer suggests that until recently, the recent incidents with past ministers, there's not been the kind of concern about the roles of the minister.
Well, the role of a minister has previously been highlighted, not only in the police, but in the Africa report on the July 2021 unrest, and the fact that the report or the commission held that there was an overstep of boundaries in the roles of the ministers during the policing of or steps taken to address the unrest. So it's not something that is completely new, and it's also not something that's only been identified in the police. It has been identified in other commissions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Madwe. In your interactions with the commissioners, you indicated that your misgivings relate to the how part. Can I ask you to perhaps complete that by dealing with whether can a minister, even assuming that his letter constitute giving direction as contemplated by Section 207, could he competently direct the when aspect?
No, he
as
cannot.
Opposed to the how. In other words, when?
No, he cannot, because once again it will have operational implications. The whole issue of the continuation of investigations. Let me give a very simple example. That court case that was supposed to be heard on the first working day in January, what should have been done with that case? Should the investigator have simply withdrawn and say, I'm not involved in this investigation anymore? If there was a bail application, should the investigator say, I'm no longer authorized to, as a member of the political task team, to attend to this matter so that there's no one in court to oppose or to assist the prosecutor in opposing bail? So the practical implications of that, in other words, the immediately and also the how, is definitely problematic, and it shouldn't be left to the executive in view of the implications that it will have on policing.
But surely that would depend on the nature of that which has to be done. I know something like acts of torture, for example, are addressed as a matter of law elsewhere. But if despite the existence of such law, the minister is of the view that torture is committed by the police, what would be wrong if the minister were to say, I am issuing this direction and I am saying this must stop immediately? I'm just giving that as one example to make the point that surely it would depend on what the direction is about. And you cannot in a blanket manner say that it can never be immediate when it's issuing from the minister.
Chair, I agree, but in your example, torture is already an offence. So the minister cannot...
That's exactly why I preface what I say by saying, with torture, there's already law about it.
Yes.
I would imagine that, put it this way, one cannot discount the possibility that there may be any number of other examples that may require immediate action, which may not necessarily mean that that becomes unlawful purely because the minister says this must happen immediately. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I agree. But even in those circumstances where an immediate action is required, the decision must be rational. And rational requires it must have a lawful basis, and also it cannot be arbitrary. And I believe
I'm very sorry to interrupt you. That's something else altogether. I'm just making the simple point that surely it should depend on the nature of the direction being given. Yes, of course, whether or not it's lawful, it would have to comply with the law, including the Constitution. You are touching on irrationality. That's something that would be unconstitutional in terms of the Constitution. But that doesn't address the debate you and I are having now, which is that surely it may depend on the nature of the direction, and depending on that nature, in certain instances, the minister can be able rationally and lawfully to say this must be done immediately. This must stop immediately. Surely you cannot discount those possibilities. Otherwise, I'm not taking away from your point, but I'm just saying that you should not make the point so categorically as to discount those possibilities.
Chair, I agree. Circumstances may dictate that immediate action is required.
Yes.
Thank you, General.
Thank you.
Mr. Mtawi, just last one for me, just to make sure I understand. General, if the minister had said, and let's come specifically to the PKTT instruction, if the minister had said to the National Commissioner, I want the political killings, the political killings that are the focus of the PKTT to now no longer be a priority in the list of priorities, no longer be your priority. Here's a new priority that I want you to focus on. If that's what he had said about the PKTT, would that offend the separation of policy and operation? Would you complain if the minister had said that?
Chair, in taking the cue from Commissioner, in taking the cue from the chair, I believe there may be circumstances where that is required. However, I also want to be careful to say that will also be always the case. But I fully understand there may be circumstances. Let's say there's a huge explosion tonight and a city is completely obliterated. Then the minister may say, don't attend to this, immediately go there and attend to that matter in view of the urgency of the matter, to simplify your example. So that may in circumstances be required. But I am hesitant also to say that will always be the case. I think we need to consider the circumstances of a specific incident.